to episode 5 of the Project One podcast in lockdown still in New South Wales. We're getting through a couple more of these. Usually I don't have too much time to do the old lockdown podcast, but the podcast, because I run 3 of them, but we can actually get through. Today I've got Mitch on. So Mitch, mate, I'll first thing I'll ask you, mate, is how are you handling lockdown? What's your coping strategy for lockdown?
Actually, doing my podcast. It's keeping me sane. I've been lucky enough to still go to work. So between that and just getting those COVID pounds, it's I'm going right downtown. It's
mate. I'm all a bit like I just find my reason to get out of the house, so it's just running. Like I hate running, so that tells you something. So if I'm out running, you can tell I just need to be out of the house. But it is what it is. But okay, so you talked about you said your podcast and you're also working. First, what do you do for a crust?
I operate machinery in the mines in open cut mining up here in Hunter Valley. And it's shift work, so every shift's 12 hours a day and night. I just come off a night shift weekend, so if I seem a bit grumpy and irritable, I do apologise.
Isn't that you normally though?
Oh,
sorry. I'll tell you something. I actually listened to your podcast with a mutual friend of ours, Glenn, not long ago, and you guys were just taking like swipes back and forth. I just felt like I wanted to be part of it, so I just give you a bit of stick straight off the bat.
It was like looking into a cold, dark abyss. I hope I don't look like that in 20 years' time, I can assure you.
He's good people, Glenn. I actually really enjoyed that podcast. I'll be honest, that's the only one of your podcasts I've heard so far. So let's get into that. If it's obviously a pretty big part of your life at the moment.
Yeah. So it started probably around March, April, and ideally what it is, it's about shedding light on those who don't ordinarily have a chance to be in the spotlight. And it's similar to yours. It's about storytelling. It's about, interviewing these incredible people and with a bit of an Aussie twinge, like everyone's had a giggle. So we share stories, and there's a section called Having a Bitchy with Mitchy. So people come on and get things off their chest. And I've had a few celebrities. I kind of went viral and I topped the charts for a while there too. It was interesting.
That's amazing. So tell me about that. Tell me how your little podcast based out of the Hunter goes viral.
Curry, the place so shit they named it twice. Homo Mullet Fest and bogans everywhere. I should get a shirt made up for that.
Mate, before we go into that, I had a laugh. I remember I was taken aback a little bit when I found out, because I'm on the Central Coast and you're up at Curry, but you're telling everyone you're from Newcastle. And I'm like, Curry's not fucking Newcastle. What are you talking about?
Well, I live in Curry, but I grew up in Newcastle. So you say where you're from is boom. Even though I was born in Dubbo, raised in Newcastle, live in Curry. Either way, I'm a bit to this, bit to that. So
bit of a stray. So yeah.
Oof, just there's the pieces of disappointment all over the place.
All right, so tell us about your podcast. What's it called, first of all?
Called Life's a Mitch podcast.
Bit of a selling point off the bat. We'll sell your podcast, and then if people don't like you, you're done. They can just get rid of you straight away. But
they can always have a refund if they don't like it. So,
So what is it? Life's a Mitch.
Life's a Mitch podcast. As I said, it's about storytelling, shedding light on those with amazing stories. When it first kicked off, I went on the game show Mastermind, and I wore a Scrubs themed onesie. So the Scrubs guys host a podcast called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, and I wore a onesie on national TV, made an absolute dickhead of myself, and then from that, the host Mark Fennell shared a promo video for the episode. It went viral, like 500k views, and then the producers of the show, Joel and GJ Dental, got tagged, and then so did two of the former stars of the TV show Scrubs, Zach Braff, Donald Faison, and Turk and JD host this podcast, and they got wind of it. So then I got to appear on their podcast. I had professional comedic actors laughing for 20 minutes. either I was charming or they felt sorry for me, and as a result, they plugged my podcast, and I shot to the top of the charts in the leisure category for Australia, the UK, and the US on Spotify and Apple.
Wow.
So
just like that.
Just like that, your boy Mitchy is getting it done.
He's a star. I'm a massive fan of Scrubs, mate. I could dead set we could do our own Scrubs podcast. I'm such a massive fan.
Well,
except for med school that can piss off.
Season 9 had a few good moments, but ultimately, I think they should have gone out gracefully with season 8, in my opinion. But anyways, that's okay.
So, Scrubs, that medical school, Scrubs medical school, garbage.
Season 9 was, they had a few good moments, but like the soul of the show, it finished like I had the perfect send off for JD, and took in a different direction. It just didn't have. It was still decent viewing for a bit, but it just didn't have that same vibe. And I don't know. It's kind of like when the Knights lost Joey, I suppose. It just lost its soul.
It's always, exactly. It's always hard to have, a couple of characters come back, and that you feel like they're only there for a minute to give it a kick off because they were trying to start something new, and it was just never going to happen. Like, it was an iconic show that went for 8 seasons, and like literally it was okay, but it didn't feel like Scrubs at any stage to me.
No, it was kind of like, are they doing this just is the network just wanting more content? Is Bill Lawrence really wanting to do it? Because he was invested in a lot of other stuff. So he had Cougar Town going at the same time. He had that animated show he was part of as well, and he's so he had fingers in many pies, and it just didn't seem like the same essence of the show. And on my podcast, I had the as a guest the head of production, Jared Weissfellner. So he made cameos in plenty of scenes, and he was on the show for the entire run, and he was telling us how it was a really tight knit community. They were like family, and Bill Lawrence, the creator, had a no dickhead policy. So essentially, if you were there and you were a dickhead and you were toxic, you would say no thanks, see you later. So he ran a pretty tight ship, and just to hear the stories about how tight everyone was and how funny it would have been behind the scenes. It would have been an awesome place to work. So
I've started listening to the Fake Doctors Real Friends. I've gotten to I think I'm a couple of seasons in. I think I'm not actually sure. It's usually an off season thing for me because, like you, rugby league fan, as you can tell from the background. As I said, I'm a big Raiders fan. What's your rugby league allegiance?
I'm a Cronulla Shark.
Yeah, so born in Dubbo, raised in Newcastle, lives in Kurri, goes for the Sharks and goes for Cronulla. How did that happen?
I resonated with David Peachey as a kid. He came to our school. We did like a country rugby league junior kickers thing with a few of the boys, and it was around then I thought, oh, this guy's cool. And then on the TV, I saw him shaking hands with celebrating someone's try, like rewarding him, like good sportsmanship. The fact that he was super kind, and it just resonated with some of the other players as well at the time. So it just made sense to go for Cronulla, I suppose. And growing up in Newcastle, it was toxic because it was the time of Super League. You got 2 teams, the Mariners and the Knights. So allegiance at that point didn't matter. I was like 10. So okay, well, if it doesn't really matter if there's many teams to go for, I don't have to go for my local one, and it just made sense to go for the Sharks, and stuck with them ever since.
Mate, I'm a Western Sydney boy, born and raised, and somehow ended up on the Raiders. So I think mine was a lot simpler. Mine was more of a case of, hey, I like the colour green, and and went with it. You know what I mean? Like, we had some good years back in the early '90s, but when I was first on them, and then it's been a long dry spell ever since. So
you got close in 19, and even last year, like you got the prelims, but
bit of an ordinary year this year, but it is what it is, mate. Yeah, so it's interesting where our sides are kind of battling it out to see who makes the finals. So if you guys could just lose to the Broncos and to the Storm for us, that'd be great.
Well, I can meet you halfway and lose to the Storm. That's fine. The
Okay.
Broncos, I don't know. It'll be a dog shit quality game, but it'll be scrappy. But it'll come down to the wire. I'm picking.
Yeah.
So
Sharks are a bizarre team. They can look fantastic one weekend and garbage the next. I've never really yeah. Anyway, we won't talk too much NRL. If we do, we can come back to it. We both listen to plenty of NRL podcasts. There's plenty of NRL content out there. You can go and find some of those podcasts if you want to listen to that. So let's get back to you. You said born in Dubbo. So how long were you in Dubbo for?
we moved back to Newcastle when I was about 2, so I don't remember
Okay,
much of it at all.
sure.
Yeah, my parents met in Scone. Dad was in the sheepskin trade, and he worked in different abattoirs around the state. So he met Mum up in Scone, and then Mum was working in a different part. I think she was something to do with like the boning of meat or something, can't remember. And then they moved to Dubbo because Mum's brother was out there as well. And then not long after, went to Rathmines and then to West Wallsend, which I spent the majority of my life. So around that area.
Okay, so what was it like? So you said don't even remember Dubbo. What's it like growing up as a Newcastle boy at West Wallsend?
Well, it's a small community. So there's 3 suburbs with the same postcode with a population of about 4,000, and everyone there's got about 3 last names. So everyone's literally related to everyone. It's ridiculous. No, it's like any small like town sort of vibe, except you've got the winery is 20 minutes one way, the beach is 25 the other, and you can hop down to the Central Coast within half hour as well. It was right there on the freeway, so it was like it took a long while for it to catch up, but it's become like a bit of a nexus now with Cameron Park the way it is. But you're always considered a Westie, so it's like a Western Newcastle sort of mountain bogan sort of vibe, but it's God's country, in my opinion.
Mate, I don't. Yeah, I love that. I love that even about here. Like even now, a lot of these places on coastal towns have become bigger towns, but I can drive probably 5-10 minutes from my house and I'm in farmland. Do you know what I mean? I drive 5-10 minutes the other way. I'm on the beach.
Yeah,
I love that. I grew up on 3 acres. Like never really used the land for that much. My dad would have thought he did, but he was a white collar worker who basically had a hobby farm. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So no, but I love that. I love that kind of farm life, and then having the coast not too far away as well. So best of both worlds for me. And the cities can go piss off as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really I don't mind visiting the city for a night out, but I like it a little bit quieter.
I'd struggle. When I went to live in England, went up to Liverpool, and friends were in London. They're like, live here, live here. It's like, one, it was too expensive, and two, like, you've got the tube system, which is a great way to get around, but everyone's breathing down your neck, and it's like, nah, I wasn't used to it, and I'm used to going to the pub and knowing everyone's name, and everyone talks about the same shit, which is fine, but it's what you become used to, and
Yeah.
as you said, they're good to visit the cities, but if living in one, yeah, I don't know, I'd struggle.
Yeah, I'm too far gone now. I lived in Sydney for most of my life and then in Melbourne, but ever since coming up to like Canberra, but that doesn't count as a city really. I was outside of the main town. That was pretty much country where I was up at Queanbeyan. But yeah, like I'd never go back since moving to the coast. I could never do a city again. But yep, so bring it on, country life for me is much, well, not that this coastal life for me is the way I like it. So
Not to mention, I spent a bit of time in Goulburn as well. Like, so mum and dad called it quits when I was about 8, and Goulburn's not far from Canberra, so that dry, cold, miserable climate. Now I don't miss those days, man. I can assure you.
so cold, not like Melbourne's gets pretty cold as well. Like I'm not a bar of the cold. What do you like? What's your season?
Winter.
Yeah, you are a winter boy.
It's
You
easier
don't.
to warm up than it is to cool down, and when you're husky like me, it's that's great.
Well, so what are you as tall as you are wide?
The round mound of sound, baby. The human toe ball.
Oh, that's gold. Yeah, so grew up. You sound like you've done a bit of traveling though too. Like you've lived and
35
moved.
countries so far.
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
35 countries. All
Yeah.
right. How many of them can you rattle off like off your head?
Well, if you go to the UK, that's 5 countries there. So you got
Oh, no,
Ireland.
no. Let's no preface. Just
Okay.
just rattle. Go.
Okay. New Zealand, Fiji, Vanuatu, Samoa, Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, Germany, Austria, uh, Mykonos, Morocco, um, Spain, Italy, France, uh, um, Scandinavia, so Norway, Denmark, um, Vanuatu, Lithuania,
Vanuatu, Lithuania. Yeah.
shit,
That's 20. You've hit 20.
shit. Okay, so then we've got, you got through Asia, then you got Cambodia, Vietnam, then you've got, shit, Indonesia, Philippines, oh, fucking hell. What's that, 25?
Yeah, I got 24.
24. Fucking
Might be
hell.
20, might be 25.
Russia, shit.
Far out.
Botswana, Bolivia, um, oh, brain's not firing, but there you go.
Mate,
There's,
that's pretty good. I'll be honest, to get like up to 27 odd countries out of what 35. That's pretty good. Like mate, I couldn't tell you that many towns I've been to, let alone
I'd,
countries.
I'd have to whip out, but yeah, it was some, um, so yeah, I've done a lot of Kentucky's, a lot of, Canada as well. Haven't done the US yet. I'd like to do the US soon when you can, when the world's opened up and everything, of course. And Antarctica. I really want to go to Antarctica as well.
Now, I'll tell you something. You guys are the ones I feel for the most, like your real travel bugs. Like I love Vanuatu. But I'd be happy to go back there every year for the rest of my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have the need to go and see 100 million places and stuff like that. But people who are real travel bugs, this must just be driving people nuts that can't go anywhere who just love traveling so much.
Can do. Yeah, but I guess you get used to it. You compartmentalize and you go, okay, well, I can't go. So the human spirit is capable of great things. I mean, look at the people who were able to defend this country in World War One and Two and do like Kokoda and do incredible things. That's just one example of the human spirit. Going to the moon, building spacecraft, whatever it is. So like the fact that I can't go overseas right now,
Yeah,
like I'm pretty sure I can handle it.
yeah, yeah.
But I see, I get what you're saying though.
But do you know how some people like there's people who are just like you actually say it real nonchalantly, like you go, oh yeah, I've been at like we've been talking for almost 20 minutes, and people who are real like travel people, you'll hear about how they're travel people in the first 2 minutes of a conversation. Do you know what I mean? Like some people, that's part of travel is really their identity. But like you seem like you love doing it, but well, you obviously love doing it to be going to so many places, but like it seems to just be real nonchalant.
Well, I mean, people that are like that scream, "I love travel, I love this," like power to them. But at the end of the day, it seems fake. Like you gotta the best version you can be of yourself is to be that nonchalant version. It's like, oh yeah, cool. Like, so if I were to come on, you asked me about travel, and I got excited, and then then it's kind of awkward when I finish talking about it as well. So it's like you got to keep the content rolling, and I don't, it's
I,
fine and all, but it's a big wide world out there, and there's more to see, and you can't get caught up on what happens in the past. I mean, it's nice to reminisce, of course, but you can't get caught up on the be all and end all. Like I won't be satisfied until I see more.
yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you'd remember him. Do you remember Mark McClendon of the Raiders back in the early 2000s?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, like a good footballer for in a time when the Raiders were terrible. Like, but he was all right. But he went to Guatemala with his mate, and they just did this whole YouTube series about filling a chicken bus. like getting as many and trying to break a real world record for how many people you could get into a bus or a chicken bus or whatever it is. And it was entertaining as hell. Like, have you ever done anything when you've gone overseas that's a little bit different?
Yeah, I tried to fill a turkey bus once. There's people gobbling everywhere. um,
you know that story you just told me. I did that exact thing. So I mean,
subscribe now to my OnlyFans.
yeah.
Have I done things out of the ordinary? I think. I mean, yeah, it was pretty cool. We were in Scottish High Country, probably 2.5 hours north of Glasgow, and we're in. I'll have to look up the name of the region, but they had their Scottish Highland Games on. So, for those of you unfamiliar, Scottish Highland Games are like your different sort of sports, like your gumboot throwing, and your like. There's a really steep hill, and the first one down this steep hill, like, and they have like wheels of cheese pushing down hills, like the really interesting thing. So I had a crack at cheese rolling. I had a crack at these different Highland sports, and it was really cool. I have oh geez, I don't know what you consider out of the ordinary, but like it's
I guess
nice.
things that like I guess it's things like different festivals and things like that. Stuff that's I always like I remember going to Hawaii and they've got like the spam festival over there, like because they're obsessed with spam in Hawaii, and I don't know whether to believe that or not, or if that's just a joke for the tourists, like Australia and drop bears. You know what I mean? But like so, I go yeah. We just tell all the tourists like we all we eat is spam. But but yeah, like I just anything that's on, and I know I think it's in Korea, and that I can't remember. They've got like a mud festival there that's just different. Do you know what I mean? Like everywhere you go's got sites and famous
I
sites
know
and
the
stuff.
bet. Well, Curry is home of mullet festivals.
Yeah. Well, what about what's the town down south that's does the Elvis festival?
Down south in the
There's a
Elvis
little
Festival.
country town in New South Wales that does an Elvis festival, and it's like this country town, and then just
Yeah, it's
gets
parks near Dubbo.
yeah,
Also out that way, you've got Wellington. There is a Coblo festival every November. It's a new thing. Talking about festivals and stuff. When I was in Spain, I went to the La Tomatina festival, which is it's a religious celebration, but it's famous where they throw tomatoes. It's honoring the Virgin Mary, I believe, and that was interesting. Getting pelted with these tomatoes and like people immersing themselves in culture, and yeah, that was really cool. And just I think everyone out there should try and experience a different culture of their own. I think, and by doing so, your eyes are opened up to just different walks of life. I've been to Fiji twice, and the first time I cruised there with an ex-girlfriend, and second time I went there with a pack of friends, and we stayed in a resort, and we did a kava ceremony in a village, and just to like see these people had, they didn't have what you would consider everything. They had huts, they had a little bit of electricity, but they were the happiest people you'd ever met because they don't know, the complications of, the vague, shitty first world problems that westernized countries go through, and like you just got to you really stop and go, you know what, my problems aren't so bad, and it makes you a little bit more like grounded, more respectful, and it helps you compartmentalize what's going on in your life and go, you know what, things aren't that bad. And it's been
yeah,
great. That's the biggest travel thing I've found in traveling. It's that it's made me love life more.
yeah. And look, I had a good chat about that with my last guest who was in the last episode, Luke. He went through India,
Yeah.
and he was just talking about how people have got nothing, but they're just so happy and grateful for everything, and you know everything in life, and their life's simple, but it's happy because it's all they've ever known. Do you know what I mean? Like we get very much into things here, you know, that real materialism type stuff. And if you don't have all the things, then how do you, you know, you're sad because you don't have the things that other people have got. And like, it's garbage to me. Like for me, I love the idea of like simple life. If I could, unfortunately it's not quite on the cards, but if I had done my time again, I would have tried to go over and spend like a couple of years over in Vanuatu and just stay there because I love the people there. I've made a few friends I've been there like 3 times, but I love the people there but it's just this simple, fantastic, like, so it's very, you know, not based on the material, not based on big places. It's just more about people than things, and I really appreciate that.
Me too. If I could have my time over, I would have started podcasting earlier and hearing people's stories from earlier on, because I've always had this fascination with characters and storytelling, and ever since I was a kid. And to hear the stories so I've had one of my guests. I'm going to segue here for a sec. Bad segue. Her name's Barke, and she was forced into an arranged marriage. She's originally from Zanzibar, West Africa, and she was forced into an arranged marriage and moved to London at age 16. Was married to this guy till she was in her 30s, had children with him, and was spoken to disrespectfully like a piece of garbage for the longest time. And she would bide her time. Eventually, like, you know, because she wouldn't have what you would consider an education. And in the Muslim faith, the male was the breadwinner, women are home keepers and all this stuff. And she basically one day said, you know what, I've had enough. I'm sick of you talking to me like a piece of garbage. And now she's a motivational speaker in the Muslim community to over 100 countries. So it's like that. It's people like Addie Delaney from Tasmania, who specializes in consent in youth, and she was an international circus performer. Now she runs a circus school. Or no, I've had celebrity guests on too. I've spoken to Matt O'Kine, the comedian, Mark Fennell, the host of Mastermind, and today I just released an episode with Hayley Mary, the lead singer of my favorite band, the Jezebels. Like, you know, this never would have happened if I just stayed in my niche and did my thing, which is fine. People are happy in their bubble. I call it autopilot. Work, sleep, weep, repeat. Because everyone gets in that. We've all been guilty of it. You get in that rut, you get in that autopilot mode. And I think that if you have an outlet like this, you'd probably agree here as a content creator, if you're able to find your niche, find something that works for you, then it keeps you from going crazy. So that's what's worked for me.
It's funny because it's not a different perspective at all, because like I agree. I love listening to people. I like hearing where they've come from, what they've done, and, you know, basically their outlook on life. I also, stories are great. Like I love hearing the shit people got up to, whether it was when they were young and getting themselves in trouble, or whether it was just funny, or, you know, something that happened at the pub. There's something about, like, when you're around your mates, you're telling stories. And this was the reason I started wanting to start recording conversation. Is I actually started something that I basically called a notcast, because it was exactly the same as you do on a podcast, except I never released it anywhere. And like, I did that. I've done one with an old mate of mine that I was in a band with, and with my dad, and with one of my best mates. And the reason I did it is because when my nan passed, and like she was old and actually held on for probably a lot longer than she could with Parkinson's, you know, wasn't really there by the end. But she was like such an interesting woman, and I was like, man, if I had that, I'm never gonna hear the stories from her ever again. So I thought the idea of recording people and, you know, taking advantage of these stories and talking to people while they're actually here with us, because you never know, because life can be short, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm happy to, and I preface whenever I call someone, I'm like, look, if you don't want this to be put up online, I'll never put it up online. Like, so say whatever you want, and if you say no, or take this out or whatever, I'd rather have that recording still there so it can be appreciated, even if it's by the person themselves or, just you and your group or what. But if people are willing to share it with the world, all the better.
True. And I think I often say this in the pod, and a lot of other people agree with me, and that the art of storytelling has been passed down from generation. And so without it, we wouldn't learn things about our history. Pompeii, Troy, the great 2016 year that was. All these things. But you stop and think one of the fundamental things of human existence is storytelling. And I say this, it's quite bleak or morbid or whatever you want to say, but there's no point carrying the greatest ideas to the graveyard. So if you have an idea, if you have a plan or something you want to do, then do it, because humanity could benefit from that great idea. I mean, Einstein was an inventor, so was Machiavelli, so was many other people, Da Vinci, all these idiots that they were very smart, sorry, I think Machiavelli was an artist and a painter, but he still was a creative, so that still counts.
Absolutely, it does.
And look how hundreds of years later, well, not so much in Einstein's case, but Da Vinci, Machiavelli, even Nikola Tesla, all these people benefited humanity. And so, I guarantee you someone out there, one person two people could listen to this, and this at least put the idea in their head, going, you know what, I do want to restore that car, or I do want to make that video, whatever it is. Humanity would benefit from it, and if you can find the time, if you can make the time for yourself, because you'll feel more satisfied. And after you take that leap of faith, I can guarantee you that the grass is greener on this side of the fence. I'm Mitch Kelly.
All right, let's get off the seat. Well, it's probably a very serious day for you. You were talking about the great year of 2016. Now, the reason obviously that's such a great year for you is the inaugural Cronulla Sharks premiership year. All right, in 2016, the Raiders actually had a pretty decent run of it too, making a prelim, but we ended up we lost to you guys in the semi-final and unfortunately beat the Panthers, and then lost to Melbourne, that you obviously played in the grand final. But then in 2019, I'll be honest, probably my favourite moments as a rugby league fan was in the lead up to that grand final. I was lucky enough to travel down to Melbourne, watch the Raiders beat Melbourne down there, come back to go to Canberra and watch them beat the Rabbits, and then a lead up to a grand final, which unfortunately didn't go our way, but still by far my favourite month as a rugby league fan.
Yeah.
Just because of everything going around. Like, the games were amazing, but without the games, tell us about your 2016 build up to the grand final. What kind of things did you do? What games did you go to? What did you enjoy about the time, and especially the grand final?
I was mostly overseas for it, so I predominantly watched it overseas. I remember I was working at a walkabout bar, and which, for those of you who are unfamiliar, walkabout is an Australian theme bar in the UK. And I remember some of the highlights. Oh, shit. I remember punishing the Knights 62-0.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Because, I'm from Newcastle and giving it to all my mates. I remember, there was a 1-point victory against the Warriors, sort of mid-year. And I remember, and grand final day, I still remember when Luke Lewis looked at throwing that offload and he kept it still. Oh, thank goodness. I remember 3 things from that year. 1, my sphincter was never tighter. 2, I remember that, there was all the hype about the peptides, and there was all that shit about, are the Sharks cheats and this and that. I don't know. And 3, I just remember sitting down to watch the grand final with a group of mates. I was
That's what
home
I'm
at
interested in. That's what I want to hear about. The games, history can look on the game. Everyone can watch that grand final. But what was your experience like?
I was
Um,
home at this point, so I was working. I come back and I was working in a resort out at Lithgow, uh, a prestigious resort out that way. It's about 30 k's, and I drove back to Newcastle. And my friend, I think it was my friend, one of my good mates, Bossy, and I went to West League Club, and the Storm and Sharks fans everywhere. This is in Newcastle, so like it's a big screen. Probably 200 or 300 people in this room. Schooners are flowing. Insults, banter, you name it. And then when it was it 12-14 or 10-14, whatever, and then Andrew Fafita rolls over like the battle tank that he was, and just that last few moments, man, I just about could have picked the chair up. My sphincter was that tight. I stood up. The place erupted, and it was just pandemonium. There was blue, white peptides everywhere. It was fucking awesome.
Peptides everywhere.
But and they also had that 16 in a row or whatever it was, 15 games in a row victory. It was a great season for them, and I don't know. It sort of started to get real. Obviously into the finals, we got punished by Melbourne just before the final started, and then there was the close game with you guys. I think it was a 2-point ball game.
That was the one where Ennis did the Viking clap to the crowd, and then and I love that. Like, I'll be honest, I think that's great. And when a couple of crowds started doing it in the last couple of years as well, that's not too bad. But like that, I love that kind of banter in rugby league. Like, it's you kind of embrace the villain. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you can have a bit of fun. Like, you can have fun with it and not go too far.
not be a dick. It's not that hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, it depends on the person too. I'll be honest, I'm not generally one for smack talking people. Like, I mean, depending on what we're doing, I'll smack talk the hell out of you if we're playing putt golf. But I won't. But football. What am I going to do? And I can't. Like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to battle with people on the internet. There's people who've got too much time on their hands and they just don't stop.
I'm too nice. Oh, you do something nice for someone, you get it thrown back in your face. It's sometimes like that.
Yeah. Well. yeah.
They know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're talking a little bit about the This Week in League crew here too. We've got, but mate, didn't you come out and basically pan Glenn when he first came back on the show?
No, that's bullshit.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm telling you.
So what happened was, I'm like, who is this guy?
Sorry, let's give a bit of background first on.
Oh, geez, what do I remember? It was like, I wouldn't say I slandered him. It was like, oh, who's this guy? Because I was unfamiliar with who he was, and I'm like,
you're a newbie, mate. You're the newbie on the scene. That's the problem. This Week in League goes back 10 years now.
Yeah, and I didn't realise at the time, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like, because I was used to Jay and Nate, and it's like, the dynamic was a little bit shifted, and I'm like, well, fucking, what's going on here? Kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, yeah, who's this guy? The other two were heaps funnier, and Glenn thought... And Glenn thought I was having a stab at him, but, and then throughout the season, like, after Magic Round, I met him, he's like, you're a champion. And then he referred to myself and Nort as, and I quote, gentleman. And then it's like all of a sudden he's like focusing on shit in the past, and now he's calling me a mouthy little prick. I'm like, well, you know what? I might be mouthy, but it's all true. Like, I genuinely thought that Jay and Nate were getting a carer's pension for looking after this fool. But no, like, going on, like, in all honesty, the banter is good, and like, I like that he absolutely tore me to shreds on the podcast, which is great. And it's nice to know that you can have banter. And at the end of the day, and they're like, oh, geez, Ned's been quiet, hasn't he? I've been on night shift. And they're like, oh, Ned's been, because they call me Ned, my last name's Kelly. Ned's been fucking quiet. I was on night shift that weekend, you fucking idiots. Couldn't respond. And like, oh, so yeah, now he's calling me the mouthy little prick. I'm like, well, okay, that's fair enough.
He's a good cat, Glenn. I'm actually I like all those guys. Like, I've actually been around since the real early days. I think I jumped on board at the end of the first season.
Yeah.
And yeah, back before meetups were a thing, I was kind of going them. But this is like a rugby league community based off the back of a podcast that's been built over 10 years in the This Week in League podcast. But I've met so many good blokes and good people out of that actually. And I get the feeling like you're the first one I've interviewed for this thing, but I get the feeling I might get a couple more on over the next probably over lockdown probably if I keep recording this thing. But all right, what else we got? We've talked a bit of travel, we've talked about experiences in travel, talked a bit of footy as a footy fan, talked about didn't really get into your work. Is it just a job or is it something that you really enjoy?
Look, let's face it. It's a job. It's a career. It's a good career. The hours are long Australian. Like you're doing 7 to 7. Like I just did 7 p.m. to a.m. So the mining industry was predicated on the fact I wanted to buy a house, and I'm close to that now. But might have something in the works in terms of a better mining position. So just waiting to see. I'm a contract operator at the moment, and I possibly might have a permanent gig coming up. So, I mean, if I get that, I'm going nowhere. But, the idea was to get into the media and be a radio announcer and get paid to do what I love. But if I can, with the roster, you can still do this passion of mine and earn a good wage. So, and then if I get this start, man, I'm going to cry. Honestly, it'd mean the world. Yeah, I don't know. It's at a weird time. I'm nervous. Over the weekend, I had to pull up my truck I was on and sort of started to have a bit of a breakdown because it's scary. Like change is scary, and especially in these times where I've got, regular work and stuff. But, sometimes you need to venture out of the normal and try it. So,
sorry, is this in the same industry or is this media?
yeah, it's a different.
No, mining. Yeah,
different mine. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, right.
So
that's exciting though, mate. Hopefully that works out for you.
I got a medical on tomorrow, and then.
Oh, really? So we're that far along?
Yeah, and then I've got to try and pass that, and then what happens from there is out of my hands. So all I can do is present myself tomorrow and try my luck, I suppose.
Mate, gonna have to do a follow-up at some point to see how you went.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a good thing.
Hopefully.
All right. Awesome, man. So you're talking about media and that's like a kind of a dream gig in the media. Like what kind of media gig would you look at? I know you actually already do a bit of like local radio.
Yeah, I just volunteer at a station at Cessnock. Shout outs to 2CHR. I just like I like interviewing people. I like announcing stuff. Like the person who loves the sound of Mitch's voice the most is probably Mitch at this point. Let's face it. But I don't know. I just like the idea of entertaining people, and if I can talk sport, if I can have a giggle, because I'm, based on what you've seen in this interview, I do have the ability to make people smile, and I genuinely like that. And I don't know. I just like the podcast. That it's unscripted, so I meet the guest the same time as the listener, and I just like that getting involved in community, like sharing local people's stories. Like you could do that job anywhere, and that would be ideal. Or sports broadcasting as well, something like that would be cool. But I'm slowly working on my craft, so we'll see what happens. And even if nothing comes of it, I'm enjoying the heck out of this project. So
yeah, absolutely. And mate, like it's funny that you create what you love to do. Do you know what I mean? Like I love creative people who make stuff. I think they're fantastic because like I've always been one. And even if I'm not good at it, I draw and I'm a terrible artist. I make music and I'm a dog average musician, but I love it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just you keep going, and mate, even if it never ended up being anything else, like I went out playing pub gigs and stuff and never, sometimes you'd play in front of 100 people, sometimes you'd play in front of 3, but either way it was all fun and games and stuff I love doing and just love playing music with your mates. But anyone that's creative and actually has a passion for something, I'd just say just go for it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you're the only person who spends 24 hours with yourself. So when you go to bed that night, was it a waste of a day? You know, was it good that I went out and played with my mates? Was it good that I spoke to someone from Botswana and we spoke about like their story and how they were able to overcome like being smuggled across borders and stuff like that? It's just you get to a point you're like, this is a day fulfilled, you know? That's how
Yeah.
I like to go. I like to make a good deed each day, whether it's something as simple as holding a door open, make someone smile, and do something meaningful every day if I can.
You're a colourful character, mate.
Oh,
I've enjoyed talking to you. Like had a few good laughs on this, but also, I think your philosophy is pretty sound too.
I think I read it on the back of a beer coaster somewhere.
Mate, that's where all life's philosophies come out the most at the bottom of a beer, isn't it?
Oh, I refer to it with my mates as schooner therapy.
Yeah.
And a couple of beers, blokes spill their guts, or women, or whoever is the group you're with. Honesty juice, as they call it. Um, but and it helps like that. That I'm looking forward to having a beer with you when I can, because you're not far from my old man's place. He's down there as well, and skewies are on.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Blue and green will
Absolutely.
always be seen. I can assure you.
All right, so tell me what else is there? What else? I mean, we've talked about a lot of your passions so far, your travel, your work, where you're going. Is there anything else in your life that, makes Mitch Mitch?
Um, I like powerlifting when the gym's open, and I'm a big pop culture nerd, huge pop culture nerd. I'm a comic book reader from way back. I'm a Star Wars watcher. I'm a gamer. So what comes back? The genesis of my love of storytelling, is a nice comic, a book, or a series or whatever. But it was actually immersing yourself in these role playing interactive games. So a lot of people buy games for multiplayer, which is cool. Me personally, I buy a game for a story. Like I like Knights of the Republic, Zelda Ocarina of Time, things like this, and immersing yourself and like that escapism, that nostalgic feeling. It's like being a kid, and it's addictive. And I think if you can spend a little bit of time having a good escaping reality for a bit, because you come back, you're refreshed, you're energized, and it helps you create your own storytelling niche as well. Like, you take strengths. So you learn things from games. Like I learned the definitions of words. I learned good moral compass. It helped exacerbate my knowledge of. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but
I think so.
it
It depends
helps.
on what the end of your sentence is, I guess.
Just to help exacerbate my knowledge and love of storytelling. Like, good, bad. You play as the good guy. You defeat the monster and save the princess. All that sort of shit. Um, it's just things like that, and you want sequels. You immerse yourself. It's escapism, but it's good escapism. It's not like a gateway drug or anything. It's because you can come back to reality, and you know what? That was a good 10 hours I just spent playing this game or whatever. So
What about your story? Like, I mean, obviously you've got your personal story, but if you like storytelling and fiction, have you ever come up with anything yourself? Like, have you written anything or,
I have
um,
actually, yeah. I wrote for a time at the pit. You get 12 hours in your own head, so you got to find constructive ways to spend it. These days, I'm grateful because I'll make a few podcasts and I'll play them back as I'm operating, and then make little notes when I'm pulled up to see, okay, at this point in time, I need to edit out this or whatever. But I was writing like an honest kind of like journal style, like memoir sort of thing, which probably will never go anywhere. But I suffer Crohn's disease, and for those of you unfamiliar, it's an autoimmune gut disorder that will probably be the end of me. It's a lifelong illness. Fucks your immune system. It does all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And it's like, well, I was feeling a bit anxious at this point in time, so I wrote about it. Like shift work is probably the last thing I should be doing, but somehow got a hold on a system that's working. And, just pondering, like, the story of an anxious 26-year-old shift worker with a gut disease, wondering, am I going to make it to the digger without shitting my pants or whatever? And it's, am I going to make it to the crib in time, all these things. And it was interesting, like just writing about it just felt good. And, it gave an insight into the mining industry. Like if anyone out there knows a shift worker, whether they're miners or emergency workers or whatever, like everyone's got the stereotype, or the stereotype is that, they earn heaps of money and all this and that. Yeah, it's true. The wage is higher, but the price it takes on the body, it takes years off your life. And that person has probably missed out on so much things like birthdays. And I've missed out before coronavirus, of course, like on engagement parties and a wedding. But I'm choosing to do this lifestyle, of course, but spare a bit of empathy for those who are battling on just to, the shit they have to miss out on, I suppose. I empathise to them.
What is it? I think it's I think it might be Jocko Willink. I'm not 100% sure. Do you know Jocko Willink?
No, not off the top of my head.
He's I think he was a Navy SEAL, but talks about life's hard, but choose your hard.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like choose your hard. Like life's always going to have some kind of adversity in it and pain and all that kind of thing. But if you can choose the things that are hard for you, that I'm actually also reading at the moment, what is it, Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I've literally just started that, but it's this idea of choosing the things that you're willing to, because everything's hard. Anything worthwhile is hard. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Choosing the things you give a fuck about and letting the rest go to hell. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's the art of compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
And prioritizing. It's like, if person A down there is calling me a prick, who are they? Like, I don't know them, so fuck them.
So the thought is, like, even though you work in this hard job and it's making you miss things, this is the path that you've chosen to go down. But that doesn't mean that it's not hard,
Yeah.
So absolutely have sympathy. I mean, I'm glad your bank balance is full, but what's that going to do if you're missing your mate's weddings and stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things. It's like you're in this role where you can actually really set yourself up and choose like I said, you're choosing a path. But mate, I've got all the sympathy in the world. Like, it's not, you don't look at people and just go, oh, well, they chose that, fuck them. No, you go, mate, they're all people. Every single person you meet is going through a hard of some sort. Do you know what I mean? So
that's why it's important to see people as icebergs. Like, the metaphor is, on the surface you'll see a minimal amount, but behind closed doors, under the surface, you know what they're going through. And someone might be putting on a brave face, but they just buried their mum or whatever. So it's important to be kind, especially during stressful lockdown times. I mean, someone might be struggling. Like me, I live by myself. I just had a mate just before. He just texted me, "Hey man, how you doing? You didn't see yourself at work last night. Are you okay?" It's kind of like throwing as the NRL call it, throw an offload. Check in on your mates, your family. I checked in on Glennie after the Sharkies beat him 50-20.
That'd be a fun check-in, I'm sure.
Actually no, I forgot to message him. That I might do that now.
Mate, on that note, I've really enjoyed the conversation with you. But it's been a good laugh, some good outlooks on life, and I've really appreciated it. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. If anyone's keen to have a listen, check out www.lifesamitchpodcast.com. Streaming everywhere, or just type it into wherever you stream podcast, Life's a Mitch Podcast, and you'll hear some funny stories.
Get on board that, guys, and until next time, this has been the Project One podcast. Goodbye.